Hello friends, today we're going to start with the second chapter in geography, forest and wildlife resources. In this chapter, we're going to talk about the forest, the resources that is provided by the forest, the various types of forest and the wildlife resources that we have in India. Before we go ahead any further in this chapter, let me give you a small example. We all know about Antilla, the Ambani residence. It covers a total area of 4 lakh square feet and it spreads over 27 floors. It has a gym, it has a swimming pool and 3 helipads. But most importantly, it has a capacity to actually 160 cars can be parked at one time. And it takes roughly around 600 people to go ahead and take care of the entire house. You might be thinking that 600 people are getting employment, right? But on the other hand, if we have to look at the forest resources and the wildlife resources that are being used up in the house, the entire villa or the entire Antilla, the Ambani residence, it takes 27 floors. So it will definitely be equipped with furniture that is of wood or at times even of metal, and the cars are again made out of the metal. Now, if you have to compare the number of people who are living in the Ambani residence, say a maximum of 15 to 20 people or say 20 people, even if there is a joint family who stays in Mumbai or anywhere in India, for an instance, if their family comprises of 20 people, if you look at the number of resources that are being used by any common man who has a family of 20 people compared with a family of 20 people from the Ambanis, the resources that are being used by the Ambanis will definitely be much more higher. So what I'm trying to tell out of this example is these resources are being used at a much larger scale by the richer people. For an instance, the water that we get freely available will definitely be used more by the Ambanis as compared to any normal family put together. See, to be very precise, the planet that we live on, the earth that we live on, we have different kinds of organisms, the plants, animals that they live on it. We will understand a term biodiversity before we go ahead any further. The term biodiversity, let's break it up to bio and diversity. The term bio means life and diversity means different plants or the animal life put together to make one. So biodiversity basically means anything that has life, like any being, let it be the plants, the trees, animals, birds, the aquatic animals, everything has life, they breathe, okay? So we have a very rich biodiversity in India. We have different kinds of plants, we have different kinds of trees, we have different kinds of animals and birds that are present in India. The entire habitat that we live in has immense biodiversity. It is very rich. For an instance, the air that we breathe. Let's understand the term biodiversity. The term biodiversity can be broken into bio and diversity. What we understand by the term bio is life, like the plants, animals, birds, trees, aquatic animals, everything inclusive, they all have life, they all breathe. When we talk about diversity, diversity means there is a lot of difference in what we see. Say if we have to look at the birds, we have different types of birds that are present in India. So in short, India has a very rich biodiversity. We human beings are blessed with that. For an instance, that the air that we breathe, okay, if we have to look at it, the plants, we all know about the process of photosynthesis. The plants, through their leaves, they absorb the carbon dioxide that is present in the air and they process it and they exhale out the oxygen. That oxygen is very important for the human beings. So what is happening? They are improving the quality of air that is present. In the same manner, the soil. We litter the soil, we throw unwanted things on the soil. The plastic takes more than 100 years to be degraded. So if we have to look at the soil, the earthworm for an instance, it is considered as the farmer's friend. The earthworm actually helps the farmer to loosen up the soil, and there is an oxygen that can be breathed in by the soil. So the earthworm actually improves the quality of soil that we have. The forests that we have, they play a very important role to go ahead and manage the ecological system. We get many primary products from the forest. For an instance, we get the rubber, we get fuel wood, we get wood that can make furniture, we get many medicinal herbs that are present. So all these things are actually given to us by the forest. Let's have a look at the flora and the fauna in India. The term flora means the plants and the fauna means the aquatic life. There are some plants and there are some animals that are very unique to your area. Say, for an instance, any kind of a grasshopper or any kind of butterfly would be found in a specific area only. In fact, if we have to look at India, we have the richest biodiversity that is present out here. 8% of the total number of species that are present throughout the world is present in India. That is roughly around 1.6 million that is present in India. We generally, what happens is we just go ahead and take whatever that we get free of charge, if we take that for granted. For an instance, if we have to look at our mothers, what do our mothers do? They actually help us to go ahead and help us with the lunch or the dinner. We get a plate that is served ready to us, but we do not look at the hard work that she puts in to go ahead and make that. So we start taking her for granted. In the same manner, when we are getting the air free of charge, the water free of charge, soil free of charge, the plants, trees, animals, everything free of charge, what is happening? We just taking them for granted. We do not take good care of them, but once it is gone, it's gone forever. 10% of the total India's flora, that is the plant life, and 20% of its mammals are on the threatened list. What is happening is these plants or these set of mammals are basically about on the verge of to be extinct throughout the world, or throughout India rather. So it is very important that we have to provide the environment that is very important, or the ecosystem that is very important for its survival. Before we go ahead any further, let's have a look at the vanishing forest. You might be thinking, what do I mean by vanishing forest? Vanishing forest means disappearing forest. The forest cover in India is 6,37,293 square kilometers. That is 19.39% of the total geographical area. If we have to break up this 19.39% of the geographical area, let's have a look at it. What is it into? We have 11.48% that is the dense forest, 7.76% that is the open forest, and 0.15% that is the mangrove. The State Forest Report that was submitted in 1999, it said that the dense forest has increased by 10,098 square kilometers since 1997. That means in the period of 2 years, this number of area of this forest has increased to 10,098 square kilometers. But the problem with the State Forest Report was they do not go ahead and differentiate between the plantation done and the forest area. They put the plantation and the forest area together. Like any different agency might just go ahead and plant trees, and that is also included in the forest. A forest is entirely different entity, but they have clubbed it all together. So the problem with the State Forest Report is you cannot rely on that State Forest Report because it is not a reliable information. Different categories of plants and animals that are into existence. Their species are divided based on how many, the number of cattle or the number of plants and animals that are available. And this report is based on the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. This is known as IUCN. Let's have a look at the different kinds of species. The first one is the normal species. Then we have the endangered species, vulnerable species, rare species, endemic species, and the extinct species. Let's go and check them one by one. The normal species. the species whose population is those levels, okay, are considered are pretty normal. Like we see the cattle, we see the goat, the pigs, all these, the the population level are considered pretty normal or possibly at times even higher. Those are considered as normal species. The second one on the list is the vulnerable species. These are the species whose populations have declined from the level from where it is likely to move to the endangered category. Say for instance, we have elephants. Okay. For an instance, the normal level for the number of elephants would be say 5,000 throughout the country. This is just an example for understanding. So the vulnerable species and the endangered species, if government has put up a level and said that if the number of elephants actually decreases lesser than 2,000, if it is lesser than 2,000, then it will run into the endangered species. But if it is closer to the say 2,500 mark, say that 2,000 and 2,500 mark, then it will be considered as the vulnerable species, because the population has decreased from 5,000 to 2,500 and it is very closer to the endangered species mark. So we understand vulnerable species as something that is very closer to the category of endangered species. So what are the examples of vulnerable species? Those are blue sheep, Asiatic elephant, the Gangetic dolphin. These are the example of vulnerable species.
No more spending your energy and money on coaching classes or missing classes for rain, for rally, and any other nonsense. Subjects covered by multiple teachers with repeat telecasts. Doubts, concepts, applications, no problem. All explained through great and significant animation. So sit back comfortably in your home and watch Study Spectrum TV channel.
Let's have a look at the endangered species. Endangered species are those species which are in the danger of extinction. Say for the extinction, the level that is marked by the government as 1,000 elephants. So what happens is the number of elephants actually decline from say 2,000, say 5,000. It gets declined to 1,000. Say possibly because of hunting or poaching. What happens? They know that it is on the endangered species mark, and slowly and steadily, if they are not provided with the necessary ecosystem or the necessary environment, these elephants will be extinct at one fine day. We can give examples of the black buck or the crocodile or the Indian rhinoceros. We all know about the black buck. There was a recent case that happened, there was a trial that was going on for the famous Bollywood actor, that was Salman Khan, because he was found into hunting 2 black bucks. Just because it was into endangered species, they are considered as the ones that is protected by the government. And anyone who would be hunting out those black bucks, what happened is, there is a trial, there is a law, there is a case that is filed against such person. This is what happened in the case of Salman Khan. Let's move on to the fourth type, that is the rare species. The term rare means, first of all, the population is very less. Like if we have to look at the Himalayan brown bear, the population is less. The wild Asiatic buffalo, the desert fox and the hornbill. The population will be very less, so managing them or keeping that population fixed is very difficult. So they very slowly or very easily get into the endangered or the vulnerable species level, and then slowly and steadily at times they become extinct. The fifth one on the species list is the endemic species. These species are only found in some particular areas. Like we have this Andaman teeth, the Nicobar pigeon, Andaman wild pig. All these are found in those specific areas. We will not be able to find that Andaman wild pig in Mumbai. It is not possible. They are found in specific areas. That is the reason they are known as endemic species. And the last on the list is extinct species. These species are the ones who are gone forever. Even if we know that this kind of animal was found in, say, this particular area, even if we try to go ahead and find that animal or plant, it will be gone forever. Like we have the Asiatic cheetah or the pink-head duck. These are gone forever. These are extinct. We have already seen the different types of the species that the way the IUCN has divided into. Let's have a look at what we have done with the forests. If we have to look at the forest, we get many resources from the forest directly or indirectly. We are able to go ahead and get that wood for furniture or even fuel wood, the barks, the leaves, the medicinal herbs, the rubber, the various types of dyes, the fodder for our cattle. All these things we get from the forest. The resources are either directly or indirectly. Now, what we have done to the forest and wildlife, we have depleted it with our own hands. I'll give you a recent example. The railway minister, he has actually said that he's going to go ahead and expand Konkan railways. When he's expanding Konkan railways, he's going to go ahead and see to it that the double track system is introduced. When he's doing that, the farmers' lands are taken over, bought by the railway minister or the entire department, and they're going to construct the double track for the Konkan railways. Now, what is happening into it is the land under cultivation is gone. If there is any land, say it is on the river or possibly through the hills, that area will be cut off to go ahead and put that new track. So what is happening? We are just depleting our own resources that we have. We are depleting the forest, we are depleting the wildlife that is present in those areas. So expansion of railway for agriculture, for commercial and scientific studies, all these forests and wildlife resources are depleted. Even for mining, for an instance, they have depleted. Between 1951 and 1980, according to the Forest Survey of India, over 26,000 square kilometers of the land was converted into agricultural land. From the forest area, it was converted into an agricultural land. Now, what is happening is there are certain tribals who stay closer to the forest. They practice the jhum cultivation or the shifting cultivation. What happens is they will cultivate a land for a specific time. After that cultivation is over, they will shift to another land. What is happening? The soil loses its nutrient value. So slowly and steadily, we are depleting our forest and the wildlife resources with our own hands. The question out here is, are the colonial forest policies to be blamed? Yes, of course, it has to be blamed. Why? Say for instance, we all know that teak furniture is very expensive. A common man at times is unable to go ahead and afford it. So there are certain people who, what they do is they cut off whatever plants or trees that they have and they get into teak culture. When they go ahead and do that, they are earning a lot of money. But on the other hand, what is happening is, if the particular soil is rich enough to go ahead and various kinds of plants or trees, those are not grown. When those are not grown, we are just depleting our forest life and our wildlife resources with our own hands. Since 1951, over 5,000 square kilometers of the forest was cleared for river valley projects. In the same manner, for the Konkan railway extension, many forest area, many agricultural land, even the hills and even the forest will be cleared. Clearing of forests is still continuing for projects like the Narmada Sagar project that is in Madhya Pradesh. It is still happening. When that project is happening, over 40,000 hectares of forest area will be cleared. Mining is a very important factor which actually depletes our forests and wildlife resources. When mining is done, those holes are made. It leaves a scar on the ground, a scar that will actually deplete the forest and the wildlife resources. The Buxa Tiger Reserve in West Bengal, it's basically threatened because of a dolomite mining that is happening in that place. What is happening because of it? We are just depleting our natural resources, the forest resources and the wildlife resources that is provided to us. And the greatest degrading factors that actually depletes a forest life, or the forest or the trees or the plants, are grazing and fuel wood collection.
Lot of students waste their precious time watching cartoons, movies, reality shows on TV. Then they waste their time on social networking sites. When the students sit to study, they are unable to concentrate to get your studies finished, and they get low marks in exams. Parents shell out tons of money from their pockets for coaching classes. But who knows what is taught in these classes? Teachers at times get bugged up when you ask them questions. YouTube has a lot of information but little of use. This is where Study Spectrum TV channel comes in picture. Every chapter explained by different teachers with different examples and repeat telecasts. We remember 20% of the audio ads we hear, 30% of the printed items we see. But we remember 70% of the audio visuals. That is why video teaching is a powerful medium to learn. After watching Study Spectrum TV channel, you get a peaceful sleep with no tensions and no worries. You devote less time towards your studies and you get better marks in your exams. Visit us on www.studyspectrum.com. Follow us on Facebook. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe for Study Spectrum TV channel and keep edifying.
But the fact remains that the substantial part of the forest are depleted because of the fuel and the fodder demands that are met by the forest. If we have to look at the forest ecosystem, there are many things that the forest gives us. The forest products that we get, the fruits, the medicinal herbs that we get, the rubber that we get, all these things are given to us by the forest. It is very difficult for the forest to go ahead and meet the demands of the rapidly ever increasing population that we have, because the forest area is limited, but the population which is present is definitely increasing every day, in fact every single second. But the amount of forest area or the number of trees that are present in the forest area are still the same, or rather they are getting decreased day by day. If we have to look at the biological laws is very importantly related with the cultural laws. The reason being, there are many tribal people who worship certain kinds of plants or trees or even at times animals. So if we are losing on the forest resources or the plants and the wildlife and the trees, we are losing on that cultural aspect. In many societies, say for an instance those villages who are very closer to the forest, or the tribal people who are very closer to the forest area, what happens is the women, they have to face the major problems because of depleting forests. Women, they play a very vital role in the collection of fuel, the fuel wood rather, the fodder for the animals and water. There are at times certain articles that were published in newspapers that said that women at times from these tribal areas or villages that are closer to the forest, they have to walk more than 10 kilometers in a day to just to go ahead and get that water. What is happening because of it? The indirect impact or the direct impact is on the household or the family that she actually takes care of. If she has to walk for more than 10 kilometers just to go ahead and collect the fuel wood, or she has to collect that fodder or water, it will impact her health. If that health is impacted, then the family also suffers. The indirect impact of degradation, what is happening because of it? Either there is drought or either there is flood. What I mean by drought is something like the Marathwada area this year. They did not have enough rainfall. What is happening if they are not getting the enough rainfall? It is very difficult for them to go ahead and conduct agricultural activities. On the other hand, the trees, when they are actually on the hilly area or even any other forest area, they hold the soil that actually controls the soil erosion. It acts as a barrier. When there is a flood in any river or any sea or any ocean, these trees actually act as a barrier, saving the entire village or the entire society closer to that area from any kind of floods and famines. And there's one more aspect to this is the poverty. Poverty is, in these cases, is basically a direct outcome of the environmental destruction. The poorer will be poorer and the rich will be richer. Therefore, it is very important that we go ahead and take care of the forest and the wildlife resources that we have. Now let's have a look at the environmental destruction, or which are the ways through which the environment is destroyed. One is the habitat destruction. When I mean the habitat destruction is the entire habitat or the entire area where various set of plants, animals, birds, microorganisms were living, those are destroyed either by the trees of fallen or the trees are cut off. When the trees are cut off, the birds that are residing on the tree, they do not have any place to live on. They have to again migrate to a different tree. Then there's one more thing that is also into existence is the poaching. Poaching is the illegal hunting, killing or capturing of wild animals. We all might have heard about Veerappan. He was a very famous smuggler from South India. He used to go ahead and either capture those elephants and cut off their tusk, and he used to sell it at a very higher price. But later on, he was caught for that. Then there is overexploitation. What happens with overexploitation is, say for an instance, you might be doing a certain thing. For an instance,